Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. Today we've got two cards to talk about. We have the new Produce SSR for Hana and the Produce SSR for Haruki. Keep in mind that both of these cards are permanent, so you will be able to get these cards in the future. And if it's anything like any of the other first Produce SSR for cards, they will be updating the True End training missions at some point that you can get one of these cards for free. I will definitely be taking advantage of that if they decide to do that. So, let's go ahead and talk about our new cards. First off, we have Hana. Hana is a vocal card initially that upgrades into a dance card at 3 stars. Her initial appeal is a vocal 3.5 that raises your vocal by 25% for 4 turns and grants you 1 mulligan. The link appeal is also 1 mulligan. The upgraded version of the appeal is a dance 4.5 that raises your dance by 50% for 4 turns, grants you a mulligan, then has a plus appeal which requires Luca in your skill history in order to grant 1 mulligan. For her passives, her 1-star passive is a memory gauge 20% up if you are running the full comedic lineup. It has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a vocal dance 100% up that requires 3 or more comedic members in your skill history, and it has a 20% chance to activate twice. Lastly, her 4-star passive is a dance 85% up that requires the full comedic lineup, and has a 20% chance to activate twice. Her memory appeal when maxed out is a vocal dance 50% buff for 5 turns that links into a vocal dance 2.5 appeal. Hana is not amazing, honestly speaking. Her appeals aren't particularly doing a lot for her. The mulligan is now pretty clearly the basis for how comedic would end up playing in Shiny Song, just in a slightly different interpretation, since banishing cards isn't a core mechanic of the game, at least for now. Her passives are reasonable, but otherwise she doesn't actually go too crazy even when maxed out. Even her memory appeal isn't all that exciting either. Buff to appeal usually needs really high scaling to make it seem playable, but this one isn't quite there. You'd have to do a ton of legwork in order to make the damage even feel particularly good, which is not something I would necessarily be recommending you invest into. Not that we would necessarily be expecting playable centers from permanent banners after the year 2019. I'm going to give this card a C, and maybe a C- as a center. Next up then is Haruki. Haruki is a visual card initially that upgrades into a vocal card. Her visual appeal is a visual 3.5 that grants interest lock for 1 turn and 1 mulligan, and has a change appeal effect that grants you a 25% visual buff for 2 turns. The upgraded version of her appeal is a vocal 4.5 that applies interest lock for 1 turn, grants 1 mulligan, and has the same change appeal effect of a vocal 25% up for 2 turns. For her passives, her first passive is a vocal visual 50% up that requires it to be turned 2 or earlier and has a 20% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a vocal visual 100% up that requires 3 or more comedic members in your skill history, and it has a 20% chance to activate twice. And finally, a vocal 85% up if you have the full comedic lineup, has a 20% chance to activate twice. Her memory appeal when maxed out is a vocal visual 50% up for 5 turns that links into a vocal visual 2.5 appeal. Haruki is better than Hana purely because her appeals have a tangible benefit to them depending on the situation. Interest lock is good if you know that your opponent's going to be doing a ton of damage with an off stat, thus being able to save a judge for a turn. Alternatively, if you don't need to be doing that, you can discard her appeal using your mulligan in order to grant a buff effect. I imagine this is going to play into future comedic cards like the upcoming Luca 2, but we'll just have to see. Her memory appeal is just as bad as Hana's, so I won't repeat myself on that. Her passives are pretty reasonable, and the change effect, while weak, does give her something to do once you've either already established some defense with an interest lock on a previous turn, or don't need to because you already know that it's not going to matter. In other words, it means that there's a lot of utility in this card that she has that somebody like Hana does not by comparison. I think this card is a C+ unit and a C- center. So, that will do it for the video today. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next time we'll be talking about the upcoming banner for New Year's, which is going to be a Produce SSR for Luca. assume that this card will be limited, and it is weird because this now technically means this is the first unit where their initial costume is not all on permanent SSRs. Unless they surprise us, but I kinda doubt it. New Year's has always been a limited produce SSR, so stands to reason that Luca will be limited. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Till then, I've been Cho. Thank you again for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day.